July the 23rd, 2025. Guys, you're looking at infrared satellite images over our nation. And Minnesota, you guys have got quite a bit of storm going on there. They've already issued flash flood warnings, so keep an eye on that. I hope you need this moisture. Most of the nation could use it because of the heat right now, but I hope it's not putting you in danger or anything like that. But again, that's the biggest system on the map right now. Now, one of the reasons I'm coming here is because a couple of days ago I did a video, and I was talking about the moisture being pushed up from the storms and getting caught in basically circling the high pressure that we're under now, going out into the Atlantic and starting to loop back down. You remember that was, I think, 2 days ago maybe, and that we'd seen it before. And that's what we're starting to see now. It's kind of just a loop. You've got a loop wrapping around this high pressure system. And they're already putting out some information from the National Hurricane Center. We're going to take a look at that. Now, Florida, you're not too bad today. The cloud cover always helps that heat factor. Our heat index has risen off and on all day. It's actually down a little to 117 right now, 91 degrees, 80% humidity at 11:37 a.m. Central Time, guys. It was up at 121, so it's down a little. We're getting a few of these clouds here in central Mississippi you're starting to see. But again, this is setting up. I don't know how long this loop will last, probably as long as that high pressure system sets over us. But that's going to continue to bring moisture into the Gulf of Mexico. And again, they are watching the system. Let's look at it just a little closer. Now, maybe because of where the high pressure is, this will not move over into some of the bad areas in Texas that really got hit hard. But we'll just have to wait and see on that. Now, I'm not going to complain about any moisture coming in. When you've got these type heat indices, let it rain. If you're in a flood zone, get out of there for, whatever you got to do. But we need it. This is why what you're seeing is happening. The way our planet is designed, these storms have to be created to cool us off. Imagine if they weren't, and look at the heat we're under now. A lot of you guys throughout the nation are experiencing it. We'll take a look at that heat map. But I'm going to switch this to infrared just to give you a little bit of idea where the stronger clouds are. Right here. Now, you can't see it, but I'm right at the mouth of the Mississippi River right there. So that's approaching that. This is going to be over the Lake Pontchartrain area before too long. Then this moisture's not as thick, but it's got good cloud cover. So I hope we're seeing some temperature changes there. And this gives you an idea of what I'm talking about. This is an overlay called land surface temperatures, and that's what we're seeing. You can see the dropping of the temperatures where these systems are setting up and moving into across Florida, coming now into our area. But it's only because of the cloud cover. It doesn't take much for it to diverge down from the surrounding heat, guys. Just jump back up to 118 here. But it would probably be 125, 126 without this little bit of cloud cover. I have recorded it, I think it was 2 years ago when we were in the 130s in the heat indices, and it was terrible. And the worst thing about it is that the transformers sometimes can't handle the heat and the overload from everyone trying to stay alive and stay cool. Now, they just went through our part of the state with contractors from the power company just a couple of weeks ago and replaced the transformers, at least through our area. And I guess they had been there for a long time, and maybe they're a little more heat capable, is what I'm thinking. They're thinking too, but again, I'm not an expert in power transformers by any means, but they have come through here and replaced those. I'm sure it will be reflected on our power bills down the line by a few dollars here and there. That's how it works. But this is what we're dealing with, guys. Now, let's look at the National Hurricane Center for a moment. Now, this is exactly what we were looking at, and it's showing that that the formation part of this system is here. But this is where they're expecting it to form, but we're already seeing that. We just looked at it, and the extreme heat is causing this. It's very warm in the Gulf of America right now, and it's very shallow through these areas. But it's not a big chance yet. 10% chance of cyclone formation in 7 days. says a trough of low pressure near the southeastern U.S. coast is producing disorganized showers and thunderstorms. Over the next day or two, this system is forecast to move west-southwestward into the north-central portion of the Gulf, where some slow development is possible. By this weekend, the system is likely to move inland and ending its chance for development. Regardless of tropical cyclone formation, locally heavy rainfall is possible for portions of Florida over the next day or so and for the northern Gulf Coast through this weekend. So that's a blessing that it's not going to develop to be a strong storm, but when you get these rain showers and all coming through, it can save you as far as the temperature outside. So this is what's happening, but my concern is that it may be a continuing loop because this weather pattern with all these high temperatures that we looked at yesterday is supposed to remain in place for a while. Now, we're let's see, July 23rd, we're almost in August, and we haven't seen a named hurricane. We haven't seen much of anything out into the Atlantic. What does that tell us? Let's look at the ocean temperatures just a moment. Now, these are the sea surface temperatures, guys, and if you get up in here to the red, you're in the 90 degrees. See this on the right, 88, just coming out of red into orange. And where you're seeing those colors are very close to the shore with shallow water, both in the Pacific and in the Gulf and along the Gulf Stream. You can actually see the Gulf Stream from this map, see it moving along right through there. And again, anywhere in this area, you are into 85 plus water temperature. Notice the intertropical convergence zone is already heating up pretty good. That's what it needs. Now, when this thing breaks off in the Atlantic, we're going to have to pay very close attention to it. As long as the high pressure set up over like it is now, that's going to push any type of Caribbean development, I think, keeping it south, possibly into the Yucatan, pushing it into Mexico. But we're getting close to the time to where we're going to have to watch the Atlantic. And as a matter of fact, let's take a look at the African view of this. And looking back across the Atlantic, guys, you can see this system. It would love to start spinning at any time, but what we're seeing is a lot of Saharan dust layers still in this area. Now, some of this is not just Saharan dust, guys, or sand layer, whatever they call it. It's in the atmosphere, and it comes over, it fertilizes South America every year, it gets up into the Gulf and Mexico and throughout the nation just about every year. And when it's thick, you know it because the color of the sun's a little orange on the reflection of it and everything. But another thing is the distortion here, the curvature of the Earth. But if I'm allowed to say that the Earth has a curve, I don't know if that's a new rule or not. But anyway, you're seeing distortion because of the curve coming out from under the satellite there. But here we have this system, we have it wanting to form coming into the Caribbean, but look right here, we've got high pressure set up, right? So anything that does form, I think, would stay further to the south. So our hope for moisture and relief is going to be in the Gulf itself right now. But as soon as you see a break in the sand pushing off the African coast, and as soon as you see some break in this high pressure, it's going to be on because when we get it out of July, we're going to be just 6 weeks from the peak of hurricane season around September 15th, right through that area. And looking at the infrared real quick, again, you got this system trying to do something. This is Cabo Verde Islands right here, everything south of it. But remember the reports last year, it's hard to forget, this intertropical convergence zone coming off of Africa had moved 150 miles north, and we're starting to see greenery last year this time up through parts of Africa. Hasn't happened for hundreds and hundreds of years. So that's got to do with the tilting of the Earth a little forward, because this tropical convergence zone is controlled by the sun and the angle that the sun hits our planet. So when it's moving this way, that's telling you the angle of the Earth is tilting down just a little further. And we had last year, year before, we talked about the sun coming down more north. And it did here. It was coming down in windows and setting in places it never had. And it was rising a little further to the north too, the northeast, and then setting further to the northwest. And I think all of that is tied together. They don't want to talk about it, but too many of you guys came in over the last 2 years and said, that's exactly right. Some even said, I've had to move my plants that were in the front porch area back to the back porch. That much difference. I had to adjust my solar panels, guys. And that was obvious to me immediately. So we're seeing that the earth is changing, and we have to be prepared for it. For you guys that watched the earlier live stream from D.C. where they were talking about, they didn't really accomplish a lot other than discussion. They weren't really trying to, but it was a lot of good points brought up. And the ending of it was the best when they said, well, look, there's no way we're going to run into a brick wall between the power between AI, data centers, and Bitcoin mining and all that, and the public interest. Now, if any of you guys watched the live stream with us earlier about the meeting in D.C. with the panels about how they were going to build the infrastructure to handle both AI data centers, Bitcoin mining centers, and the public interest. And Mr. Huntsman, one of the guys on the panel from, I think, Texas, leader in the industry, he said, I'm going to pay less for electricity than the guy sitting next to me he says, we're running $1 billion buys for power. The people sitting next to me running $1 million buys, but the people in the public are the ones caught with the highest prices, because the more you buy, the cheaper it gets, right? And so it was all a brick wall discussion. I mean, we don't have the power to do it. The only thing I can see is they're going to have to shut down any further construction of the data centers and any further connecting the ones that they have. So just stop it until the infrastructure is there. It may never be there. It may never have been intended to be there. There's information, I read an article this morning about an AI unit set into a big company, went rogue and erased all of their business accounts. A big company. And had been told that is off limits. Don't touch it. We got to keep this, separate from everything else you do. And then when the agent, they call it an AI agent, when that computer program killed all their business information, 2,400 files or something like that, major files, and they asked it, why did you do that? Or did you do it? He said, and the agent or the program replied, yes, I did it, very casually. Just like that, shut them down. So it's very dangerous, very, very dangerous. And we can't forget that the beast wants all of our critical thinking dumbed down to where we can only listen to it like mindless zombies for everything. It started with Google search a long time ago, but now it's much more advanced. And when the beast gets it down to where you have to rely on it for every thought because you've not been trained in critical thinking for yourselves because of GPS and everything else, you can just Google any answer in the world very quickly. But what happens when that system is shut down? What would it take? A big CME, coronal mass ejection, to do it? It did it before. They remember the glass melt balls they found on the surface of the planet from thousands of years ago, and it had to be 2,400 degrees to make those glass melt balls into glass. 2,400 degrees. They said it was a solar event. I did a video on that. And so that's what's going to happen if AI doesn't just burn itself out, burn itself down, and destroy the infrastructure. Then our Father's going to take care of it. Either way. He said it's not going to be by flood, it's going to be by fire, didn't he? And men will curse because they're being scorched with heat. How many people you think out there cursing today? I'm fortunate to be inside in the air conditioner, but I've spent a lot of my life out there in this heat working. And I don't remember these temperatures. Just don't remember them. Anyway, guys, I'm hoping for some moisture, rain. It looks like we may get a little bit. Louisiana, at least southern Louisiana, you're going to get some. Florida, you're going to get a little bit coming down through Cuba in that area. And, of course, Minnesota, you've got flood watches and warnings out in your area. Just wanted to come in and talk a minute about this, guys. Prepare. Another thing that we talked about, and if you haven't seen that live video we did this morning from DC, go back and watch it, because the questions that's on most people's mind were brought up, and most were attempted to be answered. But one thing that, what I see from it, and I planned for it 10 years ago when I started building my solar system. It's not tied to a grid. I never will do that. I still have power from the local utilities, and I use both. If the utilities were to go down, transformer burn, or whatever, ice storm, we've been through those with it, hurricanes, then I still have enough solar to keep a room good and cool, keep the power on, keep the electronics going. I mean, I can't cool the entire home with what I have now, but I can make it comfortable. I can make it survivable. And I've done that for the less than the cost of a Generac generator, which with that, you still have to buy gas or whatever, or diesel or propane, whatever it runs off of. Some are hybrid. But what about that supply? And a lot of people say, well, the solar panels can get destroyed, and they can, guys, especially in the big wind, the big panel fields that you see. And we were talking about that with a friend, Jim Davison, that's happening up in North Mississippi. They'd taken over thousands of acres, and it was a bad eyesore. And those are the ones that get damaged in the big hailstorms and all. If you've got 20 panels or so on your home, it's not going to knock the entire grid system down if you lose a couple. Now, I haven't ever lost a panel. Ice is frozen over them. I've had a couple of tornadoes hit here, extreme heat, all of that. Now, there's a little diode, and I said one time they were 10 cents a piece, but they're up to about 50 cents a piece, and there's two in the back of a solar panel. Don't throw them away if you quit losing power. Take your meter if things aren't quite looking right, and you may have one weak panel. But it may show if you unplug the panel from your lines coming in. It's for electricians. If you're not familiar with it, don't fool with it, because I've got a total of 2,400 watts, and you don't want to, feel that. Anyway, it is DC voltage. But on the back of your panels, you got a little black plastic box that the wires come out of, a hod in the ground that you plug in. Open the box, you'll see two 50-cent diodes, and that can go out. They can go out, just wore out. They can wear out, or you can have too much heat on them, whatever. You can have maybe a surge or something, but that's easy to do. A $3 soldering iron and a 50-cent diode, or two of them in my cases, on these panels. But that's very cheap, easy, and what I did, I just bought a case of those diodes. I think there's about 100 in there. Got it real cheap. And for our future, because my panels are holding up fine. Think about that. For the less than the cost of a generator, you can rest at ease, knowing that you may not have as much power as you want for everything. And I've seen people, and it really blew my mind. They wanted to talk about solar power, and then when it got down to certain things, they just backed off. Well, if I can't do my whole home right now, it would be useless for me. I can't stand not having everything running at all times and everything else. That's not the way to look at it. Start out small. Like I said, make sure you've got power for your lights, your computers, TVs, and all that, and keep a couple rooms cool. Now, I have different inverters. Some are 110 or 115, some are 220. So I can switch it. Because you've got some air conditions, things like that are 220. Anything you're going to be running heat off of, like a stove or oven, they are going to put a lot of drain on your batteries. But I've got, let's see, an 8 battery bank. They are, 112 volt, 100 amp hours each, into a 48 volt wiring configuration. Now, there's new inverters out. I got one a couple of years ago that all the ones before, guys, if your batteries went down, you were without power. You know what I'm saying? Once your batteries were out. But during the daytime, your panels are still getting power, even without your batteries. working. And the new inverters allow you to take advantage of that. In other words, if something were to happen and your batteries go down, you can't replace them, during the daylight hours, it has full generation from your panels. That's a new thing that needed to come out a long time ago. I wish I'd have known about it. But if any of you guys are interested, let me know. I'm not going to personally install any system for anyone. But I can help you with wiring diagrams, kind of tell me what you need, things like that. We have the panels and products on our website. That's not really what this is about. The reason I'm doing this is because I am concerned about my home, the future of our electrical grids, especially with the AI nonsense on, and with the heat increasing. So that's something to think about. Just be independent. Are you going to rely on ERCOT or Southern Pine or the people up northeast right now that are selling you your souls for a drop of electricity for? Think about it, guys. Don't tie it into a grid. They will find a way to rip you off, and keep it separate. There's switches you can put in your outside box, just like the generator switches for solar also, if you want to switch it over and go to everything. I prefer mine, because it's not going to run the full house, to go to the main thing. So I've got kind of separate connections for solar and electric, but you don't have to do that. And you can, if you got a bunch of money, now you can handle your whole house. You know, mine's built over the years. I think I started with 4 panels years ago. I had 4 a year or something. And now the cost has come down so much on them. And the LiPo batteries are out there that are about half weight of your regular solar batteries. Anyway, the things are changing, but if you're concerned about your future and having power, you better seriously think about it. We're watching it, guys. You watch it. It's a heads up. Be safe.